Hello everyone. So in this video, I want to define some key terms that are important to understand the following videos. Now, those terms are actually not important. I will explain why, but because I mentioned them in the following videos, I want to explain them. So the first one is I'm going to refer to something called fetters or the 10 fetters or the 10 fetters in Buddhism. Now, fetters, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but it's basically a synonym for like handcuffs. Now, if you're interested, you can search on Google like the 10 fetters in Buddhism. Basically, the 10 fetters in Buddhism, it refers to this idea of the 10 illusions. So they have separated the illusions in 10. They have just made 10 groups. It's completely arbitrary. We don't really need that. But because I started from this path, I use that term in the next video. Now, you don't really need to understand this term. You can basically ignore it completely. But because I mentioned it, I want to say it. So the way I'm going to make those videos and I'm going to make those lessons, let's say, is I'm going to refer instead to stories. I'm not going to try to structure them into some 10 whatever, whether it's fetters or story. I will just mention stories. So if you have watched the first two videos, you probably understand that the idea of enlightenment is that we tell ourselves some stories, that they kind of condition our mind. They make us think weird things. They make us suffer. They make us make bad decisions. So Santa Claus is the example, but of course there are many more that are much more subtle and much more powerful. But just like Santa Claus is a story, what we are going to do is we are going to look into different stories that we either consciously or unconsciously tell ourselves, and usually lead to suffering or to bad decision, or most of the time, both. You don't really need to understand the 10 fetters. You don't really need to know anything about Buddhism, so don't worry about that. I refer to it mostly because that's the path I took, but then I realized that in some way this path is excessively complicated. It can be simplified. We don't need to use those big words, those structures. There is a lot of structuring, like 10 of these, 4 of these, 5 of these, 7 of these. You don't really need that. You just need to understand that basically the reason we are not, in quotes, enlightened, the issue is that we have many layers of stories in our mind. Santa Claus being the most obvious. Of course, it's kind of ridiculous. But just like Santa Claus, we have many layers of stories that we tell ourselves consciously or unconsciously, and we don't realize that those stories are like, let's say, conditioning us, manipulating us, and they lead us to suffering and to bad decisions. So that's all you need to understand. When you hear me saying 10 fetters, this fetter, like fetter 4, fetter 5, whatever, don't worry, just think in stories. So, fetters, stories. Every time I say fetters, 10 fetters replaced with the 10 stories. And even if we will not structure it in 10 stories, we will use it, we will approach it in an order which is more practical. So we will not worry about the original order. We will just look at whatever story is important to remove from our mind, to erase, let's say, or at least to realize that it's a story. You don't really erase it. It's not that you erase Santa Claus, but you realize Santa Claus is a story and it loses all its power. So every time you hear the word fetter, replace it with story. If I say 10 fetters, just say, the 10 official stories in Buddhism. If I refer to a specific fetter, just say, story number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. So in the next video, I'm going to refer to fetter 4 and 5. Those are called desire and ill will. Now, the idea being that fetter number 4, so like handcuff, illusion, story number 4, is desire, let's say, desire. But I will explain what it actually means in the next video. So desire will be in theory, officially, but again, we will use a different interpretation. You will see in the next video. So desire would be what you want, and that's fetter number 4 in the official tradition. And ill will is basically what you reject, what you don't want. So what you hate, let's say. So, and that's fetter number 5. So, but again, replace it with story. So story number 4, desire. Story number 5, ill will. And usually in the classical process that people follow in the classical Buddhism, in the official Buddhism, let's say, those two fetters are basically done together because it's kind of two sides of the same coin, So on one side you desire, on the other side you hate. So desire and ill will, they are usually grouped together, and they are referred as fetter 4 and 5. Just story number 4, story number 5. Story number 4 is desire. Story number 5 is basically ill will, rejecting, hating something, disliking something. And then the last concept that I will mention in the videos that is like part of official Buddhist tradition that you need to understand, because if not, it could be a little bit confusing, but you don't need to really understand it. I will explain it in a simplified way, but I still want to say what the terms mean. So there is this thing that is called first and second dart. It's important to understand because I mentioned it a few times. So it's like a dart, when someone throws darts, imagine like someone has an arrow and they throw the arrow and you get hit. So it's painful, of course. So the idea is there is the first dart, that is when, again, someone throw a dart at you and it hit you and you feel pain. So the first dart is pain. Like, for example, you break your leg and you feel pain. That's it. So you will always feel that. Everyone will always feel that. There's no way out. So it's not that enlightenment or whatever Buddhism can remove that. No one can be free of pain. This is impossible. So anyone saying that this is possible, they are basically lying to you, or maybe lying to themselves also. So first dart is pain. It's what the direct pain you feel when something happened to you. You fall, you break your leg, you feel pain. That is called first dart. Now, second dart is basically the story you tell yourself about the first dart. It's like the rumination, is the suffering. So I make this distinction, is like pain and suffering. So first dart is pain, second dart is suffering. By the way, that's not my distinction. I think that's the classical official distinction that they make in Buddhism. But it's important to understand. So first dart is pain, second dart is suffering. First dart is you break your leg, you feel the pain. Second dart is after you break your leg and you feel the pain, you tell yourself, why me? I didn't deserve that. Why did it happen to me? What does it mean? God hates me. What did I do to deserve that? Is the story, is the rumination. Now that's what we are going to remove with this process. We are not going to remove the pain. There is no way to remove the pain. If you fall and you break your leg, you are going to feel pain. So first dart is always going to stay. But second dart amplifies the pain. The story we tell ourselves as second dart is going to amplify the pain. So the story, the mental part of the pain, the rumination, the story we tell ourselves, the comments, the whatever. So whatever you do after you break your leg, basically, it's like, oh my God, what is going to happen now? Does that mean that God hates me? Why me? What did I do to deserve that? Do I have bad karma? It's like all those things, So it's like all those stories. It's like, we will see, of course, why those can be, because it's not trivial, of course, to realize why the second dart can be removed as a story. We will see this in the next videos, but I need to introduce the term, to introduce the distinction. So first dart, pain. It doesn't have to be physical pain. It can also be mental pain. Like you lose all your money, it's painful. But then, so that would be first dart. You lose all your money is first dart. But then you start to think, oh my God, why me? What did I do to deserve that? Why did this happen to me? It's really unfair that it happened to me, blah, 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 blah. And that's second dart. So second dart is the story that amplifies the pain. And first dart is the pain itself.